Hi, this is Devin Haupt, and I'm going to be talking about colorblindness and criminal justice. So, just a brief overview of what colorblindness is. Colorblindness can be defined as the belief that race based differences and racial group membership should not be considered when decisions, impressions, and behaviors are formed or enacted. So, colorblindness is believed to reduce prejudice and discrimination in social environments. And this is based on the logic that if institutions and people do not notice or acknowledge race, they're not going to act in a racially biased manner. Colorblindness attitudes, however, maintain existing racial disparities that are present in society. So, looking at colorblindness in the criminal justice system, colorblindness affects the criminal justice system in the United States as a whole. And police officers are more likely than members of the public to claim that they are blind to racial differences. And due to this, many studies have been conducted to study the correlation between colorblind beliefs and police in the United States. And studies have found that police officers deny racialized policing and they use neutralized language when they're asked to describe both traffic stops and investigations. Studies have also found that systemic racism, police officers do not believe this is present in their departments. So if bias does exist, they claim that it's due to a rogue or bad apple police officer. And many studies have also found that police don't believe that they need more elaborate anti racism training implemented in their departments. Lastly, many studies have make use of the colorblind racial attitude scale or COBRAS, and this assesses cognitive aspects of colorblind racial attitudes, and it's based on unawareness of racial privilege, institutional racism, and blatant racial issues. And a visual representation of how colorblind beliefs affect police officers' interaction, even with youth of color, shows that the higher they scored on the COBRAS, the more likely they were going to interact with African American youth. So, in order to mitigate the problem of colorblindness in policing, I believe all police departments should implement a yearly policy of cultural diversity training that's coupled with implementing evidence based policing practices that are most effective in their jurisdictions. And in regards to the cultural diversity training, it will be implemented twice a year, once at the start of the year and then again in the middle of the year around June. And this would be to adjust for potential accounts of changes in police and community relationships as the year progresses. The cultural diversity training would be carried out in the three steps as followed. So, first, police officers are going to be educated on how to recognize and acknowledge minorities' uniqueness in the communities they serve. And this is based on a multiculturalism perspective of discussing and considering group differences and ethnic differences in communities. Next, police and their departments are going to conduct an open dialogue among minority members of the community they serve to understand the struggles of those who are affected by their colorblind practices and beliefs. And this gives the opportunity for both sides to express their point of view so communities can discuss how they're disproportionately targeted, especially in regards to unwarranted stops and potential searches. And the police can discuss why they think what they're doing is effective. And third, there's going to be implementing an interactive training session among police officers for them to actually acknowledge their own biases and stereotypes that they hold towards minorities. And along with the cultural diversity training, police departments would implement evidence based practices. And these practices would be carried out to decrease the amount of times police officers are actually encountering minorities, especially in regards to unwarranted traffic stops and potential searches. And these evidence based policing practices reduce discretion of the police. And this is positive because it could decrease the racialized decision making they use for these unwarranted traffic stops and potential searches. Looking at the success and results of the intervention, it would be based on several factors. So, measuring the results of the cultural diversity training will be based on changes in the three steps that could be seen from the implementation of the training at the beginning and the middle of the year. So, if the dialogue between the police and minority communities is more positive with less complaints regarding the police, and if police officers are more open to discussing their stereotypes and biases, the training will be working. Now, looking at the results of the evidence-based practices, we would look at the police data and records in their department. And if we're seeing if unwarranted traffic stops and searches of minorities are decreasing, it would appear to be working. And success of this policy would look like not just between the implementation at the beginning of the year and the middle of the year, but over the years as this training and these evidence-based policing policies are implemented, there's going to be a rebuilding of trust between the community and the police. And it's going to be due to positive dialogue between the police and them understanding the uniqueness of the minority communities that they serve. Also, police are going to have behavioral changes because they're going to become fully aware of their biases and their stereotypes, and they're going to be open to discussing them and correcting them. And in regards to the evidence based policing practices, we would see potentially a 50% decrease in unwarranted traffic stops and potential searches among minorities. And these are my references. Thank you.